A teen killed in Towson. Now county leaders hit the streets to take action. Fox 45 News questions what it will take to produce results. From potential record-breaking heat to freezing lows, we're tracking the massive temperature swing happening this week. And our team is analyzing the potential for rain and even snow this weekend. Today, parents getting another chance to vent their frustration over Maryland's 529 program. The demand for answers from parents still blocked from college funding they paid for.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
We told you we're in for a roller coaster weather week, and here we go. This is sleet falling in Baltimore this morning. The brief showers now gone, and we're tracking what could be a record-breaking day tomorrow.
Did you think we were kidding? Our region and other cities expect to see record warming weather. Winter is blanketing other parts of the country. This is video from Arizona and South Dakota, and we're talking several feet of snow for some people in the Midwest. Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers will join us in just a moment with more in the forecast. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. We are going to turn to some serious news right now. The death of a 17-year-old inside the heart of Towson has rattled the nerves of residents. And tonight, elected leaders are responding.
Well, that teen who attended a school in Baltimore City was shot and killed Monday night near Towson Circle. No suspect has been caught.
The neighbor heard about 5 shots. And once the shots happened, apparently there was an individual that walked over to the victim and looked at that victim and then walked away.
I love this community and I love the people here, and we deserve better.
We're openly exploring all avenues and all options to keep, again, not just Towson, but all of our communities safe.
Is unthinkable. And we absolutely have to put all our heads together, all hands on deck to stop this insanity.
Even to take a walk outside with your dog becomes sort of a life or death situation.
We have live team coverage of the crime crisis in our area.
Let's get to Maxine Stryker. Maxine, we know County Executive Johnny Olszewski will be in Towson tonight for a public safety walk.
Yes, some quick action here, Mary and Kai. The county executive expected to be joined by the county councilman here for Towson, as well as several police officers and business leaders and community advocates right here in the heart of Towson. And I can tell you, people are very much feeling scared and worried after recent events. We're hearing from people just walking up to us here on the streets as we're out here tonight waiting for that community walk to begin. This, of course, comes after the death of a 17-year-old Trayshawn Harmon Monday night, shot along Delaware Avenue. He was a Baltimore City school student, as you mentioned, and last Sunday there was another shooting near the Towson Circle that left one man injured. Hours later, police say a victim was stabbed multiple times and punched in the face right here where we are along Chesapeake Avenue. And at the beginning of February, 3 victims were raped at gunpoint, again, just steps from the Towson Circle. Now, the county executive says more officers have been assigned to the Towson area. Other resources are also being discussed tonight, but residents are feeling unsafe. Many are looking for answers right now.
This was an argument between 2 groups of individuals. This was not, as best we know, any threat to the public at large. Until we stop crime, we've never done enough.
Well, Baltimore County Police, they are still looking for a suspect in Monday night's shooting. As of right now, they say they do not have a motive. And if you have any information, you are urged to contact them or Metro Crime Stoppers. We'll join you live at 5 and bring you to that crime walk at 5:45. But live for now in Towson, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Maxine, thank you. Well, businesses in Towson and around Baltimore County have complained about crime for some time. In fact, a year ago, Fox 45 News talked with businesses after a large fight led to 6 young people being arrested. 2 officers and a security guard were hurt. The county told the businesses that changes were coming. One manager in the mall told us that they'd closed earlier on the weekends to ensure the safety of employees there.
It definitely is concerning. Again, like as a manager, my first priority is always like my employees' safety.
In parts of Baltimore City have long struggled with crime. Areas in and around the Inner Harbor have taken steps, though, to make things safer. Vincent Hill is live there with more on their efforts. Vincent?
Yeah, Mary, many business owners say just the presence of security has helped deter crime. Now, It's been a growing trend in the last year. Federal Hill residents starting the Federal Hill Neighborhood Patrol, restaurant owners in Little Italy bringing on uniformed security to make patrons feel safe, in the Cross Street Market posting private security inside after several disturbances, including a fight there this past weekend. Pizzeria owner Joey Van Oni says having security around is a much needed addition to the area.
We have incidents all the time. We have kids on the motorbikes up and down Charles Street. People are getting robbed.
Meanwhile, patrons inside the market say they feel safe knowing security is around and can respond quickly since police presence in the area is limited. Now, coming up at 5, I'll tell you the cost of this private security and why one business owner says that's something he shouldn't have to pay for. For now, we're live in Baltimore. Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Vincent, thank you. Well, for months now, Fox 45 News has been demanding answers as we see more young people involved in crime. In Baltimore alone, and they're also victims, 11 young people under the age of 20 have been killed this year. Other teens are being named as suspects in crimes. When it comes to what's being done to hold young people accountable for crime, elected leaders are not on the same page.
The very children under our current law that could be automatically charged as an adult, tried by a jury, are not even eligible to serve on a jury because they're under the age of 18. So right there, you're talking about a major hypocrisy and inconsistency in our system.
We can't continue to tolerate the things that many of them are doing, and they do it without any regard whatsoever for the law.
The legislature makes it so complicated with, all these requirements. If it's on Thursday before 2:30 and the person's right-handed, then they're not committing a crime. But if it's after 4 and they're left-handed, then it's a crime.
A 9-year-old can bring a gun to school and shoot their teacher, and that child cannot be charged at all.
Well, just yesterday, lawmakers chose Vincent Schiraldi to lead the state's juvenile services with no Republican support. He has come under fire for saying young people should not be exposed to the adult justice system until they turn 21 or 25.
We need more balance in our system. There has to be accountability, and there has to be some sticks to go with the carrots. And that's not happening right now. And my fear is that this is throwing gas on the fire.
Well, Governor Moore maintains he's confident in Schiraldi's leadership.
And in a city in crisis, 2 people were killed this week and 4 others were shot and survived. 37 people have been killed in Baltimore this year. The city's Public Safety Committee again canceled today's meeting that they were scheduled to have. Alexa Ashwell questioned the chair and members of that committee as to why this is happening. Alexa?
Yes, Kai, there have been more than 7 scheduled public safety hearings so far this year. More than half of those, including today's, have been canceled. We wanted to know why. While homicides and shootings are down compared to this time last year, the city is still facing a crime crisis, like the 15-year-old Merville High School student who was shot outside of an after-school program, or the mother who was shot and killed as she and her children waited for their takeout order in Upton last month. We also can't forget the 5 high school students who were shot in a shopping plaza parking lot. One of those kids was killed. Here, a look at the 2023 calendar showing 4 out of the 7 hearings canceled. In addition, 1 week, a meeting wasn't even scheduled. I reached out to each member of the Public Safety Committee asking for an explanation. Specifically, why are these meetings not being prioritized in a city that's been faced with more than 300 homicides for the past 8 years? And as a member of the Public Safety Committee, do you find this concerning? What have you done to address this? Now, 2 councilmen referred me to Councilman Mark Conway, who chairs the committee and controls scheduling. Conway sent me this statement that reads, committee hearings are canceled for a variety of reasons, including scheduling conflicts and requests by the sponsor of a bill being heard to reschedule. The committee has already had thoughtful hearings this year on topics like local control, BPD, juvenile justice, EMS services, and human trafficking. I look forward to our upcoming hearings on bills and topics brought forth by my colleagues and I. But, Kai, Mary, historically, these meetings haven't just been about legislation, rather a time for the Baltimore Police Department to share the latest crime statistics, any trends they're seeing, and what's being done to address crime. I pointed this out to the chairman. I have not yet heard back. Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. Now, frustrations are growing in Baltimore City as some community members tell Fox 45 News they aren't satisfied with the mayor's response to questions on the crime crisis and the controversial conduit plan. Longtime Baltimore resident Pastor P.M. Smith spoke with our morning team today about the concerns he has with accountability in local government.
He has no answer that can satisfy any question in the arena of public safety, in the arena of economics, in the arena of education.
Well, Smith also voiced frustration with the lack of improvement in city schools and the mayor's claims that no rules were broken in the approval of his conduit plan with BGE. That's despite the city council president and comptroller of the city saying the mayor is abusing his power. Families who lost tens of thousands of dollars in the state's 529 college savings plan wait their turn to make their voices heard in Annapolis this hour. We have a live update on today's scheduled hearing.
President Biden heads home after a trip that continues to make headlines.
And our evening forecast remains with clouds and temperatures in the 40s, but notice the temperatures put on the brakes. It's going to be much warmer tomorrow. We could be threatening record highs from about 150 years ago. I'm going to let you know how warm it gets and when we could also see some snow in our forecast. You heard me right. It's my Weather Authority forecast coming up.
Fox 45 News, winner of 17 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Well, we're back now with the Fox 45 Quad Box. President Biden wraps up his trip to Europe. The president is on board Air Force One, departing Poland on his way back to Washington. His trip was highlighted by his surprise visit to Kyiv, Ukraine, on Monday. There, he vowed the U.S. and allies were firmly behind Ukraine in its defense against Russia. Treasury Secretary Pete Buttigieg will visit East Palestine, Ohio on Thursday, weeks after a train derailment and controlled release of toxic chemicals. And this just in right now, a Los Angeles judge has sentenced the man convicted of gunning down Nipsey Hussle to 60 years to life in prison. Eric Holder was convicted of first-degree murder last July for the 2019 murder.
And bottom right, the feds have fined the Mormon Church $5 million. The Security and Exchange Commission says the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints failed to properly disclose investment holdings worth $32 billion.
Be the first to know about breaking news by signing up for News on the Go. Go to foxbaltimore.com and click on Mobile Alerts Sign Up under the Station tab.
Well, we told you we're in for some wild weather this weekend. Here we are. Sleet falling in Baltimore this morning. The brief showers are now gone, and we're tracking what could be record-breaking warmth tomorrow.
As our region and other cities expect to see record warming, winter is blanketing other parts of the country. This is video from Arizona and also South Dakota. Look at that. Look at that snow coming down. We're talking about several feet of snow for some people in the Midwest.
Well, Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers here with our forecast, which today is icky, but tomorrow, amazing.
Right? Yeah. Yesterday it was 63. Day before that, I believe it was 65. Today, temperatures at 49. That sleet going to the rain. And then tomorrow, we're threatening record high temperatures. Wow. All right. 49 degrees now here in Baltimore. Winds out of the east-northeast at 13. Totally different feel today. I said it was going to be a lot cooler, and yeah, it is. And even to show you a little bit of that sleet this morning, mixing with a period of rain as a warm front's trying to move through, but you don't feel it yet with a wind chill now. Yes, there is a wind chill at 44. 49 here in Baltimore. Currently, we've got 47 at Cockeysville. Farther north and east you get, the deeper into the cooler air you get, and that kind of made a little bit of a visit and now is beginning to gradually pull out. 44 at Elkton, south and west, starting to warm up again, just a smidge. Out Gaithersburg Way, we're in the 50s, as well as out toward Frederick. This is the warmth. Look at that, 17 degrees warmer than 24 hours ago at Charleston. Meanwhile, we're about that much colder here in Baltimore as a front came through. It is now stalled, and it is going to begin pushing back to the north as a warm front. And behind that warm front, oh, wow, it's going to feel more like what the May 25th averages. That's like Memorial Day. That's what it should feel like, is about 78 degrees on May 25th. And that's our forecast for tomorrow. And the record from back, 149 years ago, and I believe my friend Justin Chambers in the morning, he was saying this is before City Hall in Baltimore was even built when that record was taken. And we could threaten that for tomorrow. So just as warm as it is on our side of the country ahead of this next weather maker, it is that cold and that wintry on the western side. Blizzard warnings. Look at this wide swath of nearly impossible travel all the way from Minneapolis all the way back to Denver. Places in California, not too far from Los Angeles, actually, in some of the higher elevations, some of the mountains, all the way down to the Mexican border with this weather maker, getting winter storm warnings and just feet of snow. So rain, that came through earlier. There's some snow and ice on the northern edge of this thing. Never really going to quite get into that, although there is a risk of a couple of snow showers potentially as we head into Saturday around here. But first, I want to get through the warmth. That's what's going to be coming our way late tonight into tomorrow. Notice the temperature is kind of putting on the brakes on our future scan. They're about 9:30 p.m. Temperatures stay in the 40s, pretty much where they are right now. This is as the warmer air comes in. And by tomorrow morning, I think this computer model may be a little overdone in terms of the temperatures, but I think we'll be rising into the 50s easily as we head into the morning commute. And by the end of the morning commute, with a chance of a shower or spritz as that warm air really makes the push, we could be well into the 60s and even 70s by lunchtime tomorrow. Look at those temperatures in the 70s. Going to feel a lot like almost summertime around here. Shorts and short sleeves, perhaps. And that goes all the way into tomorrow afternoon. So for tonight, 45 degrees. Could see, again, maybe a sprinkle here or there. We jump up to 78 for tomorrow. The record high for tomorrow is 78 from back in 1874. And if we can hobble our way to 80, that, I believe, would be the earliest at BWI that we've done that in the year. Although I believe on February 25th, there's a standing record of 83. So we have hit the 80s at least once in February, but this would be the earliest that we did it if we do it. And then sunshine, blustery, much cooler on Friday. Back to reality with a high 52. Could see a couple of PM rain and snow showers on Saturday. I think most of the moisture, it appears, is down to our south. The system kind of splits to our north and south. So especially, say, south of Baltimore, there could be a few flakes around, but that's something to watch on Saturday. Sunday, we're back up near 60. Boy, what a frenetic forecast. Can't figure out how to dress here. Stray afternoon shower on Monday, 56, 60 on Tuesday, and 54 with sunshine on Wednesday. So if you have the summer clothes or the winter clothes in storage, I think you're going to have to get all of those out in the next 7 days.
Jonathan, thank you. Well, an important day for many Christians. Today is Ash Wednesday, marking the beginning of Lent, a season of reflection, fasting, and prayer. Some of the faithful observing the holy day at the Baltimore Basilica in Mount Vernon.
We were sort of building the plane as we were flying it.
A need born out of the pandemic continues to create great change. Meet one of our champions of courage coming up. Fox 45 News following developments in Annapolis, where Maryland families unable to tap into their college savings continue to fight for their money, what they want from lawmakers.
Rental burden, how much of their income some renters are spending on average, and a warning from experts as price cap measures are proposed nationwide.
Inflation is hitting couples planning a wedding this year. According to the wedding planning platform Zola, the average cost of a wedding has gone up $1,000 from a year ago to $29,000. Zola says the higher cost for couples is partly from higher costs that vendors are facing. Wedding experts say some couples are buying some items secondhand or opting for a weekday or morning celebration to offset costs. High prices also affecting the rental community. Dee Dee Gatton with the National Desk explains what some experts are calling a new milestone in housing affordability.
You may have heard of the 30% rule, the idea Americans shouldn't spend more than 30% of income on housing costs. It's advice some financial professionals have been giving for years. But after skyrocketing rental prices, some have said that is an impossible target to meet.
Ridiculously high. Renting now is almost 2 times of what it would cost to have a mortgage payment.
The federal government considers households that are cost burdened to be those who spend more than 30% of their income on rent, mortgage, and other housing needs. Now, for the first time in their 20-plus year tracking history, Moody's Analytics found a record number of renters in the U.S. are spending 30% of their income on rent.
Food costs are extremely high. You know, the very basic things
that households need have seen much higher rates of inflation. We've got limited supply facing demand that was stoked by COVID-19 policies. I mean, that's a surefire recipe for rising prices.
Director of the Institute for Economic Forecasting at the University of Central Florida, Dr. Sean Snaith, says wages and salaries have not risen fast enough to offset how fast we're seeing increases in the cost of living. In response, lawmakers nationwide have proposed or are considering legislation that would put a cap on rent increases. Snaith points out,
when you try to dictate a price that's less than what the market price would be, there's unintended consequences and could in fact worsen the housing shortage, because now the incentive to build new units in areas where there's rent restrictions and rent controls is greatly diminished.
According to Rent.com, the national median rental price was a little more than $1,900 in January. Experts have said rental prices have started to ease slightly, but some tenants in communities nationwide have said the availability of affordable housing continues to be a big issue. Reporting for the National Desk, I'm Dee Dee Gatton.
Well, all this month, we are marking Black History Month through Fox 45's Champions of Courage. Tonight, how a need born out of the pandemic continues to create change.
Lawmakers hold an important hearing today to address issues at the state's embattled college trust.
Problems within the trust began last spring when thousands of families' college funds were frozen following what Maryland 529 is calling an interest calculation error.
Now, many of those families are in Annapolis right now at this moment speaking in front of lawmakers. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has more on how the General Assembly is getting involved. Rebecca?
Yeah, Mary and Kai, after a year of waiting to regain full access to their accounts, parents are saying enough is enough. They want their money and they want lawmakers to step up and help. Senate Bill 475 would establish a work group to assist them in seeking those solutions and getting answers. The work group would be tasked with identifying the root cause of the problem, as well as developing policies and procedures to prevent something like this from happening ever again. At a hearing held last month, Maryland 529 executives claims that they had fixed the interest calculation error and were simply working to recalculate accounts. However, parents claim under those new calculations, many of them have lost tens of thousands of dollars on their investments. They've also had to take out loans and rack up debt while they wait for the state agency to finish sorting out its alleged math mistake. Parents ultimately arguing it's a mistake the state made. They should be the ones paying for it. Now we're still waiting for today's hearing to start, but we do know that at least 30 parents are in Annapolis scheduled to share their stories today. We'll keep you posted on what they have to say and if the Education, Energy and Environment Committee decides to pass or deny Senate Bill 475. In studio, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
You would be inhuman not to care about these children and also give parents options. Why should your failing public school in your community be the only option?
A Baltimore City mother is pleading with lawmakers in Annapolis to continue funding a program that has allowed her to give her son a better education.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost is live in Annapolis covering the education debate. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Mary and Kai, Governor Wes Moore right now is proposing to cut $2 million from the Boost program, which allows low-income families to receive scholarships to help them put their students elsewhere. We spoke with a Baltimore City mom. You just heard her there. She says that she was one of the more than 3,000 families who received a scholarship that allowed her to put her student in a different school. Looking at the most recent data, we know that nearly $3 million has been allocated to these low-income families in Baltimore City alone through the Boost program. That mother tells me her son would have otherwise gone to Johnston Square Elementary. And if we look at the data, we know that Johnston Square is one of those 23 schools in the city that didn't have any students proficient in math of those students who were tested on the latest state testing. Now, she says cutting this $2 million may not sound like a lot, especially for a state budget with worth more than $60 billion. But she says that $2 million means a lot, especially to families like her who really want it.
It's such a small amount of money we're talking about here, that makes a big difference. I just don't think that this is an area that we should cut. We are ultimately cutting kids' futures if we do that. I can't imagine, and I don't want to think about what it would have been like without it. I'm just thankful that we had the Boost program to help us get there.
Now, Republican lawmakers here in Annapolis are pushing to refund that $2 million to fully fund the Boost program. They held a news conference earlier today, and part of this legislative package they're pushing also includes a right to learn portion, which they say would allow parents to receive that per pupil funding that would otherwise go to the state. Those families would get it and put it into a savings account that they could then use to put their students in other schools, perhaps private, Catholic, charter schools, other than a public education system. Now, the Republicans are facing some pushback and face questions about if those school systems are already struggling, how they could take money away from those school systems, given this program would take that money away and give it to the families. Republicans say they're looking to help everybody.
Proportionally, it's going to be those failing schools that are in those impoverished areas that are going to, hopefully, we're going to see the biggest result. We're committed to our public schools. All of us are. Despite the fact that we're committed to it, we still have students who want to get out of those failing schools now.
Now, we're still waiting for this bill hearing to wrap up. Earlier, they heard some testimony about this piece of legislation. Specifically, when it wraps up, we'll ask those Democrats where they stand on this plan. Mary?
Kenzie, what is the governor saying about why he wants to cut some of the Boost funding program?
Not much, Mary. We've sent him questions. We sent him questions again today, and earlier Project Baltimore sent the governor's office a round of questions asking why cut the Boost program funding. We haven't gotten an answer as of right now. But lawmakers this year do have a new power. They can shift some money around during the budgeting process. That's something they weren't able to do before. But in order for Republicans to fully fund the Boost program, they would need Democrats to get on board with it. And as of right now, it's unclear if that'll happen. We're live in Annapolis. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. This brings us to our question of the day. Do you support Governor Moore's proposal to cut funding to boost? So far, 84% of you say no. You can vote right now at foxbaltimore.com/vote. Maryland's congressional delegation in Washington, D.C., meanwhile, is announcing $2 million federal dollars to remove West Baltimore's so-called highway to nowhere. The road was built more than 50 years ago. The project pretty much destroyed homes and displaced more than 1,000 residents. Lawmakers call the federal grants a first step toward addressing the historical injustice.
Look around. I'm in public housing. I can't afford no $1,000 tutor from Sylvan, but that's what he needs, a tutor.
It's been 2 weeks since Nichelle Watkins shared her story with Project Baltimore, and in that time, her life has changed. Watkins has a fourth grader who attends Johnston Square Elementary, which a Project Baltimore investigation found is one of 23 city schools where 0 students who took the state math test scored proficient. Watkins came forward pleading for help, saying her son is far behind in his education. Her emotional story really triggered an outpouring of support.
I feel like I shouldn't have had to come to the news to get the help that I know my child needed. And for me to have to push this hard for the help is crazy to me.
Tonight at 10 o'clock, we'll tell you how the community is rallying around this Baltimore mother and the offer she's received from a local private school.
Well, we are following some breaking news. A man shot in Anne Arundel County tonight happened around 2:30 on Park Place in Brooklyn Park. Investigators say a man in his 30s or 40s was shot and taken to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. Other people in the home where the shooting happened told police a second man who lived there had shot the victim. That person is in police custody as a person of interest, but currently charges have not been filed. Police say there is no threat to public safety.
Also breaking right now, 5 people have died from a small airplane crashing near Arkansas. We understand that plane crashed moments after takeoff. This happened in Little Rock. The twin-engine plane crashed not long ago near a 3M plant. The FAA says there were no survivors.
Making headlines now, the Biden administration is facing pressure to seize its expansion of Title IX policies. Last summer, President Biden announced proposals to expand Title IX protections to include transgender student athletes. Public schools, colleges, and universities would be required to permit sports participation based on gender identity. More than 24 organizations, though, sent an open letter to the Secretary of Education Tuesday asking the administration to reconsider the proposals. They are led by a right-leaning advocacy group, Defense of Freedom Institute, which calls the amendments unfair to biological women.
I think it's pretty clear to anyone on either side of the aisle that we want every athlete to have a level playing field. And when biological boys are allowed to compete against biological girls, that's inherently unfair.
President Biden has said the expansions are necessary to create an inclusive environment. The earliest any Title IX athletic standards are expected to be released is May.
The family of Malcolm X has announced a $100 million wrongful death lawsuit against the New York Police Department, the CIA, and FBI, among others.
Conspiracy included many individuals and many government entities and agencies and many affiliates of those agencies.
Its leader was assassinated. Well, the black nationalist, as Malcolm X is referred to by many, was assassinated in 1965. He was fatally shot as a crowd in Manhattan gathered to hear him speak. 3 men were convicted in his death, but 2 were exonerated recently in 2021. The family's attorney, Ben Crump, who you just saw there, says the agencies conspired to assassinate Malcolm X and hid evidence from the people wrongfully convicted in his death. During the month of February, we are continuing celebrating Black History Month by highlighting champions of courage in our neighborhoods.
That's right. Tonight, we are introducing you to one former Columbia teacher whose mission to keep her students fed during the pandemic has just increased. Shannon Lilly shows us how she started a chain reaction.
I'm
Inside the barn in Oakland Mills, Columbia's youth learning the skills they need to score, both on and off the court. It's part of a new pilot violence prevention program called PUSH.
You're releasing down here, release up here.
Program director Saquon Maxwell giving kids a safe space to hang out, do homework, and just be themselves.
My biggest thing is letting kids know if you put kindness into the world and you be genuine to who you are, it'll take you a long way. You just, like I just said, I tell my kids all the time, kindness is free, spread it everywhere.
But in order to spread that kindness here,
okay, so you're gonna put 20 here.
Maxwell is receiving a little kindness himself.
I would most definitely say, in a lot of ways, she is the spine to the PUSH program.
He's talking about Erica Chavarria.
After you get back from California, let's definitely head over to Wild Lake.
A former teacher at Maxwell's high school in Columbia turned business partner.
Saquon had posted something on Twitter, basically with his program that he had developed called PUSH. And he basically said, you know, if you just let the youth lead, we have so much to offer.
And her response was, that's perfect. That's what we need to do. Like, this is what I'm trying to set up.
The PUSH program beginning in 2022, but for Chavarria, it was just the latest step in her already growing nonprofit.
So this is the first post that I posted that started the whole thing. It was March 11, 2020, and it says, if they close HCPSS, I volunteer to run meals to students and families who are in need or help in locations where food will be offered.
3 days later, Columbia Community Care was started. And 3 years later, the nonprofit is now a well-oiled machine, functioning out of their relief headquarters at the old Columbia Flyer building to address poverty and hunger in the community.
Make sure that the order is correct, that their address is right.
Already serving well over 150,000 residents with weekly deliveries of groceries.
We were sort of building the plane as we were flying it, and so I never studied to be, I never studied how to build a nonprofit or even intended to build an organization. I was a teacher. I'm still, like, in my head, in my heart, I'm still a teacher.
And it's that heart that drives the mission well beyond hunger relief.
If you look at history, and you look at, the civil rights movement or the power movements in the past, young people were at the forefront of those fights.
A fight that Chavarria, too, is championing through her work to give youth and families in need a better shot at life.
And that's a notion of Dr. King's dream, right? That we all can coexist and we all can live amongst each other and create opportunities for each other while helping each other and spreading love to each other. Yeah, that's 110 Dr. King.
And that's why Erica Chavarria is a champion of courage.
Well, all this month, Fox 45 News is saluting our champions of courage as role models for people who keep Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream alive. And you can watch the Champions of Courage right here on Fox 45 this Sunday, the 26th of February at 11:30 a.m. That's our special. You can also catch it later that day on MyTV Baltimore 2 p.m. or Saturday evening, February 25th on the CW Baltimore. Well, the symptoms all mirror one another. COVID, the flu, even strep throat. How to tell them apart in our Health Watch report.
New asylum restrictions for migrants ahead of the lifting of Title 42. I'm Christine Frizzau in Washington, where the plan is being slammed by both Democrats and Republicans.
And temperatures overnight tonight going in reverse. Look at these temperatures in the 40s for about 2 a.m., then jumping to the 50s by early tomorrow morning. We could be threatening a 150-year record tomorrow. I'm going to let you know how close we get. My Weather Authority forecast.
Tonight, a new proposal from the White House updating asylum rules for illegal immigrants. This in anticipation of a major boost in the number of migrants planning to come to the United States. National correspondent Christine Frizzell reports.
A tightening of the rules at the southern border. The Department of Homeland Security and Justice Department laying out a new plan, assuming presumption of asylum ineligibility for all migrants, allowing them to be immediately deported if they didn't first seek protection in countries through which they traveled. Immigrant rights advocates slamming the proposal.
We're talking about transit countries like Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, countries that themselves are experiencing mass migration as a result of violence and war, gangs. These are also countries that don't have functioning asylum systems.
It also expands the use of the CBP One app to schedule an appointment to file a claim at the port of entry, a rule already given to those from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, credited with bringing the numbers down between the ports of entry in January to their lowest levels since February 2021.
The administration seems to be reaching into the dustbin of history and resurrecting a Trump administration rule.
But those who want to crack down on illegal migration say the plan is simply a disguise to lower the numbers of those coming between the ports of entries, but will increase those showing up at the ports, and is an abuse of the parole system because it could allow those who don't have valid asylum claims to be welcomed in.
The fact of the matter is that there's going to be a wide-scale abuse of the asylum process when these illegal immigrants are claiming asylum for economic or political reasons, which is not a justifiable claim.
Still, Lieutenant Chris Olivares says it could still benefit border agents who will hopefully be able to focus more on those trying to sneak in illegally, sometimes with drugs or weapons, but isn't convinced the new rule will be effective.
It's not going to help stem the flow of mass migration. All it's going to do is create a much larger problem in the long run.
On immigration, a new approach from President Biden ahead of a potential launch of his 2024 campaign. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzell.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look. We got the clouds that are stuck with us today after high temperatures in the low to mid 60s yesterday. We're at 49 now, and you see there on the Mile 1 Towson cam, we've got those slate gray skies overhead, winds out of the east-northeast at 13. No more of those warmer westerly winds, at least for today. Wind chill even at 44 degrees, but tomorrow can be a totally different story. Temperatures all across the board. We're at 49 here in Baltimore, 46 at Cockeysville as you head up towards Cecil County. That's the coldest area at 44. The heart of the chilly area is off to our east and northeast, so that's why those east and northeast winds coming out of that easterly direction helping to keep our temperatures tempered today. And then out to our west, that's where the edge of the warmer air is. And you hop over the Appalachians, look at Charleston in West Virginia. After 12 degrees colder than we are than 24 hours ago here in Baltimore, they're 17 degrees warmer than they were 24 hours ago. And it's that warm air tomorrow that's going to break off and head our way. Look at this. Our forecast high, 78 degrees for tomorrow. That would be more indicative or more average of May 25th, like Memorial Day. And our record high is 78. So I'm forecasting a record for tomorrow, and that record goes way back from before when City Hall was built. That's what my friend Justin Chambers was talking about this morning. Back to 1874. HD radar showing a nice quiet shot, except for a couple of showers that are now on their way out east of Harrisburg up toward Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That's where the warm front that continues to push at us isn't fully through yet, but once it comes through, temperatures may start to jump overnight, and by tomorrow afternoon could be threatening 80 degrees. Now, there are some showers that are out to the west. Not expecting that many of those are going to hold together, but overnight tonight, we could see a stray spritz pull through after midnight into early tomorrow morning. Then the warmer day tomorrow, a cold front comes through dry tomorrow evening, and beyond that, going to turn a lot colder as we head into the first half of the weekend. Kind of a change in seasons once again before we warm up again after that. So taking a look at the future scan overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning. Temperatures kind of steadying off. There could be a spritz or a light shower through the after midnight hours and the wee hours of tomorrow morning. Then look at these temperatures going well into the 70s. A good outdoor lunch day tomorrow. Take a run, a jog, anything outside. That's going to be the way to go. And again, we are threatening records from nearly 150 years ago. Thursday afternoon. So 45 degrees, lots of clouds, could see a shower or sprinkle late tonight. That 45 is probably during the evening. We probably jump into the 50s by the time you're making that morning commute. Could open the windows on the morning commute even. 78 for tomorrow. The record again is 78 from back in 1874. An early sprinkle, then clearing and warm. And I wanted to take a look at the long-range computer models as we head into the weekend. You see some of this blue that's overhead here? That could be some snow showers and flurries as we head into Saturday. So hard to believe, with a chance of a sprinkle tomorrow morning and then go to 78. We go back only to 52 and blustery on Friday. The parkas are back out on Saturday with a high 37. That rain or snow shower risk. Could see a morning shower left over on Sunday up to 52 again. Then look at these 60s. They're back again early next week.
Jonathan, thank you. Trending right now, First Lady Jill Biden is in Africa. Dr. Biden arrived in Namibia today. She's the first White House principal to visit sub-Saharan Africa this year. According to the White House, her focus will be on the role of young people in shaping democracy and advancing health cooperation. Her visit is part of a push to step up the United States' engagement on the continent to counter China's presence on the continent of Africa. Leaving, the First Lady said that she was surprised by her husband's visit to Ukraine.
And he told me, like, right before he left, and I said, I said, what? You're going where?
Well, Dr. Biden is the most senior U.S. official to visit Namibia since 1996, when Vice President Al Gore made a quick stop. Her next stop is Kenya. Coming up at 5 o'clock, a crime walk trying to bring comfort to a community now rattled by crime. How local leaders are responding to a rash of violence in Baltimore County.
With so many illnesses going around, how do you know if it is just a cold? I'm Liz Bonus. We help you separate the symptoms to get the right treatment. It is just ahead.
In our Health Watch today, with COVID-19 cases, the flu, strep throat, and several other viruses still circulating, the question comes about how do you know if what you have is just a cold or something more? Medical reporter Liz Bonus has more.
Hey there, everybody. With COVID-19 cases, the flu, strep throat, and several other viruses still circulating, how do you know if what you have is just a cold or something more?
I just woke up extremely tired one day with tremendous body aches.
Family medicine specialist Dr. Scott Woods is now back seeing patients again, but with so much going around, even doctors get sick. A few months ago, he had COVID-19.
Mine actually activated my asthma, and I've been coughing, but a lot of people cough, even people without asthma, for anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks after having the current COVID virus that's going around.
So first sign, Dr. Woods says it's likely more than a cold, fever, body aches, or a lingering cough. If the cough gets so bad you have trouble breathing, that too is a sign you may have the flu or COVID-19. What's bringing people into the hospital with those illnesses right now?
It's usually a couple days of need for oxygen and maybe some COVID-specific medications.
Second sign, it's likely more than a cold. According to infectious disease specialist Dr. Stephen Blatt, you got exposed to another virus.
I mean, if you're closely exposed to COVID, then you start having the symptoms, it's COVID.
Other tip-offs, it's more than a cold. Symptoms hit suddenly. You're coughing up crud. Your throat continues to hurt even after cold symptoms clear up, and you have a severe headache. Part of the reason separating these symptoms is so critical is that the antiviral medications for both COVID-19 and the flu work best when taken within the first 3 to 5 days when you're feeling these symptoms. I'm medical reporter Liz Bonus. Now back to you.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, could private security help keep Towson safe? We look into how effective it's been in Baltimore as Baltimore County is trying to stop a wave of violent crime. And funding could get cut from a program one family says helped their child get a better education. The battle in Annapolis over the Boost program.
Action tonight in Baltimore County after a 17-year-old is killed near the Towson Circle. How local leaders and the community are coming together.
Could private security be the answer? We look into how effective additional security forces in parts of Baltimore City have been when it comes to improving safety.
Plus, a battle over a state program helping families put kids in the schools they choose. Why the governor is planning on cutting Boost funding.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
the neighbor heard about 5 shots. And once the shots happened, apparently there was an individual that walked over to the victim and looked at that victim and then walked away.
I love this community and I love the people here, and we deserve better.
We're openly exploring all avenues and all options to keep, again, not just Towson, but all of our communities safe.
Is unthinkable. And we absolutely have to put all our heads together, all hands on deck, to stop this insanity.
Even to take a walk outside with your dog becomes sort of a life or death situation.
Violent crime is rattling Baltimore County residents. Some telling Fox 45 News they're no longer sure if they're safe in their own neighborhood. The most recent incident shook the community after a 17-year-old was killed just steps from Towson Circle. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Team coverage tonight on violence in Baltimore County. Vincent Hill is looking into the use of private security forces, asking if they could be part of the answer to keeping Towson safer.
First, Baltimore County Executive John Olszewski is joining police and Towson business owners for a public safety walk, hoping to bring the community together in the wake of a violent month.
Fox 45's Maxine Stryker joins us live in Towson with more. Maxine?
Well, Mary and Kai, the county executive will join us right behind us here at 545 outside the Chamber of Commerce, along with the councilman, police, and several local business leaders here in the community to go on a crime walk and discuss recent concerns here in the Towson area. This comes after the 17-year-old Trayshawn Harmon was killed after he was shot Monday night along Delaware Avenue. He was a Baltimore City school student. Now, last Sunday, there was another shooting near the Towson Circle that left one man injured. And hours later, police say a victim was stabbed multiple times and punched in the face right here along Chesapeake Avenue, where we are right now. And at the beginning of February, 3 victims were raped at gunpoint, again, just steps from the Towson Circle. Now, Olszewski says more officers have been assigned to the Towson area and other resources are also being discussed. Perhaps private security, but residents are telling us they're feeling unsafe and they're looking for answers now.
We've spent far too much time talking about coddling criminals and not how we stop them. It's something that's been allowed to happen for not just weeks, but years of this mindset that has allowed this. And now what we're seeing is the repercussions.
So we expect everybody to gather here at the Chamber of Commerce and take a few questions, we're told, at 545, and then spend about a half hour to 45 minutes taking a walk through the community and connecting with different business leaders here in Towson. As of right now, no suspect has been arrested for the death of the 17-year-old on Monday. So if you have any information, you're urged to call Baltimore County Police or Metro Crime Stoppers. We'll have more at 6, but live for now in Towson, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Maxine, thank you. Well, businesses in Baltimore County, and especially the ones in Towson, have been sounding the alarm about crime for a few weeks now. Exactly a year ago, Fox 45 News was with businesses after a large fight led to 6 young people being arrested, 2 officers and mall security injured. Leaders then told us they met with businesses and security changes were coming. One manager in the mall told us they would be closing an hour earlier on weekends, which they are, to ensure their employees are safe.
It definitely is concerning. Again, like as a manager, my first priority is always like my employees' safety.
Baltimore County residents are demanding a solution, asking local leaders what's going to be done to make sure they're safe. Meantime, in Baltimore City, some communities have begun employing private security forces to deter crime. Fox 45's Vincent Hill has gone into those neighborhoods to see if those efforts have been successful and if we could see similar strategies happening in Baltimore County. Vincent, what'd you find out?
Yeah, Kai, it's a growing trend here in Baltimore City. Private security on patrol around businesses. This security guard at a clothing store in Harbor East, we're told, was hired just weeks ago because of a rash of thefts just across the street from where a security guard shot a suspected thief last October.
I think the final thing is on the corner opposite us, one of our neighbors at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday got carjacked.
In Federal Hill, residents like Ian Newman pulling together to front the $18,000 bill for private security to patrol the neighborhood. And in Little Italy, restaurant owner Gia Blatterman using a grant from former Governor Larry Hogan to reduce crime in their Baltimore neighborhood. Hiring 2 security guards after a shooting in Fells Point left a Little Italy chef dead.
They come over quietly, and we call them like the ambassadors, just eyes and feet on the street.
And at Cross Street Market, visible private security walking the area.
It helps a whole lot. It helps a whole lot.
Hakeem Ali, an employee at a restaurant in the market, says private security has reduced the number of incidents both in and around the market.
Only little slight problems I see now. Every now and then you'll have a few people coming here being disrupted, a few homeless people or something, and they kindly disperse with them.
Lotus also works at the market and says security makes up for the lack of police on the streets due to a police shortage.
Their presence isn't really seen or felt around here, especially on weekends.
Her boss, Joey, agrees that security in the area is needed.
We have incidents all the time. We have kids on the motorbikes up and down Charles Street. People are getting robbed.
But says he and other businesses shouldn't have to pay for something twice.
Private security does help, but it's not a solution. Everyone here pays taxes. Our taxes pay the police officers. We should have a police presence here being proactive, not reactive.
Meanwhile, crime in the area of Federal Hill and Harbor East is actually down according to Baltimore Police crime map. In the last 30 days, there's only been 1 aggravated assault and 3 robberies. Now, to put that into perspective, that number's in the hundreds in other parts of the city. For now, we're live in Baltimore. Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Vincent, thank you. Well, teenagers not just falling victim to crime lately. Fox 45 News has been hearing more examples of young people across the state committing crimes. Last week, we learned a 16-year-old boy was arrested in connection with the January shooting at the Edmondson Village Shopping Center that killed 16-year-old Deontay Dorsey. Earlier this month, 5 Annapolis teenagers, including a 15-year-old, were arrested and charged after they ran from police during a traffic stop. Police say they tried to ditch a bag of guns and drugs. And now the state Senate has confirmed Governor Wes Moore's controversial pick to lead the Department of Juvenile Services with a party line vote.
After a delayed vote and criticism from Republicans, Vincent Schiraldi has been confirmed to lead the department. But some Republicans say that they're worried Schiraldi could make the juvenile crime problem worse, citing the new secretary's history of advocating for not giving young people under the age of 21 a criminal record.
We need more balance in our system. There has to be accountability, and there has to be some sticks to go with the carrots, and that's not happening right now. And my fear is that this is throwing gas on the fire.
Governor Wes Moore released a statement saying he remains confident in Schiraldi and promises his pick will work in partnership with police, educators, and child welfare and mental health professionals to improve public safety and outcomes for youth, not only in Baltimore, but throughout Maryland. Breaking news to report right now after a man is shot in Anne Arundel County. It happened around 2:30 on Park Place, that's in Brooklyn Park. Investigators say a man in his 30s or 40s was shot and taken to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. Other people in the home where the shooting happened told police a second man who lived there shot the victim. That person is in police custody as a person of interest, but currently no charges have been filed. Now, police say there is no threat to the public.
You would be inhuman not to care about these children and also give parents options. Why should your failing public school in your community be the only option?
A Baltimore City mother is pleading with lawmakers in Annapolis to continue funding a program that's helped give her son a better education. Right now, Governor Wes Moore is proposing cutting funding for the Boost program, which gives scholarship opportunities to low-income families to enroll their children in non-public schools. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost is live in Annapolis covering the education debate. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Kai, so right now about 3,000 families have received scholarships through the Boost program. We talked with a mom whose son was one of those recipients. She says she was able to use that funding to get her son in a different school, otherwise would have gone to a struggling Baltimore City school. Right now, Republican lawmakers are telling Governor Wes Moore if he wants to leave no one behind, fully funding the Boost program could help. In East Baltimore, you'll find Johnston Square Elementary, where not one student who was tested on the latest state testing could do math at a grade level. one of 23 schools across Baltimore in the same situation.
The school selections weren't great.
It's also where Nefertari Lee's son would have been a student, but instead, he attended a private all-boys school.
Boost made the transition and made the everyday monthly bills in the household still affordable.
Her son Bryce, one of the 3,268 students who have gotten a scholarship from the Boost program. Boost provides financial help for low-income families to take their students out of failing schools and put them in a private school.
Every option should be on the table.
Republican lawmakers backing a bill to make the Boost program law, restoring the $2 million Governor Wes Moore is proposing to cut and fully fund the program.
We're committed to our public schools, all of us are. Despite the fact that we're committed to it, we still have students who want to get out of those failing schools now.
The bill defines a failing school as one with 2 or fewer stars under the state accountability system for 2 years in a row. The GOP-backed plan, called the Right to Learn Act, also calls for setting aside per pupil funding in a savings account for students who are in failing schools to use to go somewhere else.
House Bill 737.
The plan heard in a House committee.
It provides them a lifeline.
Democrats on the committee not asking a single question, moving on after brief testimony. Looking at the latest data from the Boost program, almost $3 million has been given to students from Baltimore City to get out of their district. But no Democrat from the city appears to be behind the bill to fund Boost. While Governor Moore's budget proposal isn't reality yet, Fox 45 News sending a few questions to the governor asking, why are you proposing to cut $2 million from the Boost program? What options will low-income families have to get their child a better education without the Boost program? Is this proposed $2 million cut the first step in phasing out Boost? The governor's office not exactly answering the questions, instead offering a lengthy response saying Governor Moore's, quote, biggest priority is creating a Maryland that leaves no one behind, and he's working toward that goal by proposing record-breaking investments in education across the board, adding he will do whatever it takes to fund Maryland's schools.
But this time,
Sponsor Delegate Jeff Grice says the money is there to fund the program.
Guaranteed that $2 million means a heck of a lot more to the families that are impacted by this lifeline than it is us.
Nefertari Lee says the scholarship has changed her family's life.
I just don't think that this is an area that we should cut. We are ultimately cutting kids' futures if we do that. So I can't imagine, and I don't want to think about what it would have been like without it.
Now, I'm told that Republicans are open to possible amendments to the plan that would strip out some of the other language, really just focusing on fully funding the Boost program with this legislation. It's unclear if Democrats will be on board. We're live in Annapolis. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. This brings us to our question of the day. Do you support Governor Moore's proposal to cut funding to Boost? So far, 95% of those who voted say no. You can vote right now at foxbaltimore.com/vote.
Parents testify in Annapolis demanding their money back. The latest on the battle over the failures and frozen accounts in Maryland's 529 program.
Despite the crime crisis in Baltimore, the city is repeatedly canceling public safety hearings, looking into why so many are being skipped as the violence continues.
And a touch of summer in February. Take a look. Up to 78 likely for tomorrow, which would tie a record from 149 years ago. I'm going to let you know how long it's going to stay warm around here, when there could be some, yes, snow in the forecast. That's in a couple of minutes. My Weather Authority forecast.
A massive winter storm brings snow, strong winds, and frigid cold across the country, but not in Maryland. On your left is what residents in Arizona are dealing with, and on your right is South Dakota, where parts of the Midwest is bracing for several feet of snow. Now, that storm is impacting travel on the roads and in the air. Well, Jonathan May from our Sinclair sister station in Montana has the latest on the situation there.
Here in Bozeman, Montana, and across the whole state, wind chill warnings and advisories are in place. Wind chills 10 to 30 degrees below zero are common and will continue over the next 2 days. Road conditions are slick and dangerous with the current snowpack and poor visibility. First responders report slide-offs, traffic delays, and hazardous road conditions. Earlier this morning, the Montana Department of Transportation closed down I-15 south of Dillon, heading to the Montana-Idaho state line due to dangerous weather. Multiple ski resorts are also closing down or have delayed opening because of the extreme weather conditions. And avalanche warnings are in effect in southwest Montana, mountain ranges, and other areas across the state. State transportation officials urge everyone to plan for changing conditions and for extra time on the roads. And with colder temperatures and even colder wind chills, be prepared to pack emergency travel kits with blankets, food, and water. Reporting in Bozeman, Montana, Jonathan May.
Oh my goodness, that looks, I'm getting chills just looking at him.
Me too.
I've got goosebumps, seriously.
Instead, we're going to do the exact opposite.
Yeah, we are.
The sunscreen out for tomorrow.
Unreal. Yeah, you know, just as cold and snowy as it is on the western side of the country, that same weather maker is forcing the same intensity of warmth.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty intense storm. Yeah,
there.
pretty intense storm system. And for us, it's just benign weather. Right now, we are kind of on the edge, the very, very edge of the iceberg, if you will, of the cold weather. It kind of snuck in last night with a cold front. If you remember some of the showers, even thunderstorms we had yesterday afternoon, brought that in. That front is now settled down to our south. It switched the winds to the east-northeast at 9, so the 48 feels like 44. And you can see why the temperature regime is kind of doing what it's doing. You can almost see this bubble of cool air coming in out of the east and northeast. That's where our wind direction is coming from. Elkton, that's coldest spot at 43. That's closest to the core, at least locally, of the cooler air. And that jacket weather continues here in Baltimore under the clouds at 48. The farther away you get from that, you start warming up a little bit. You see down toward Annapolis, Stevensville, as well as Gaithersburg and Frederick, and that is only the tip of the warmer air. Where's the front? Yeah, you can pick it out right in here. That's a warm front. From Detroit all the way down to Cleveland, you're talking about temperatures rising, 30, 40 degrees here into the oranges. 80 right now at Atlanta, and that is what's coming our way. On the back side of this storm system is the extreme cold in the snow and the blizzard conditions. Near record warmth forecast for tomorrow, 78. Our high expected tomorrow after 40 today, and the record is 78 from back in 1874. Again, you can see just the dynamics with this system. The rain, the snow, thunderstorms. We've got blizzard warnings, winter storm warnings. These warnings actually have gone all the way down to the Mexican border in terms of winter weather of the highest elevations of California, all the way down to right around almost Tijuana. So pretty impressive stuff here. But we are dumbbelling the warmth in from the south right now as the rain kind of let in that warm front this morning. You got that period of showers. That now has moved north and east, and we get into the warmer air. Could see a shower or two overnight, late night tonight into early tomorrow as the warm air finishes kind of displacing all this cool stuff. Notice overnight into early tomorrow morning, there's that spritz or two. Temperatures actually go up overnight. Could even be in the 50s when you wake up, and there are your 70s with sunshine tomorrow afternoon. Again, just really wild weather that we're seeing here from fall to spring to winter to summer, all the seasons mixed in. 45, lots of clouds, could see a shower late. Temperatures rise late night tonight. 78 tomorrow, shorts and short sleeves if you can get away with that at work. We're back down to 52 and sun on Friday. 37, could even see a rain or snow shower with the system glancing to our south on Saturday. Morning shower on Sunday, 52, and back to the 60s again early next week.
Jonathan, thank you. Parents who've been put in an impossible financial situation demanding answers. The latest on a hearing happening in Annapolis right now over failures with the state's college savings plan.
They may be eyeing the White House in 2024, but do voters have other ideas? I'm Scott Thuman in Washington with a look at the contenders and their strategies coming up.
President Biden saying Vladimir Putin is making a big mistake by pulling out of a nuclear arms deal between the U.S. and Russia. The START program limited the number of nuclear weapons each country could have at any given time. The Russian president now pulling out of that program, citing the United States' continued support of Ukraine in the war against Russia. Now, continuing coverage as the site of that toxic train crash in Ohio becomes a backdrop for a look ahead at the 2024 presidential election. Former President Trump appearing there today, while President Biden has taken heat for his absence. Sinclair's chief political correspondent Scott Thuman has a look.
Former President Trump in Ohio talking to worried residents about safety after that train derailment with hazardous material, and hoping it comes across as presidential, worthy of another term.
We have told you loud and clear, you are not forgotten. You are not forgotten. We stand with you. We pray for you.
The strategy twofold, separating himself from other GOP contenders and allowing him to take swipes at possible Democratic opponent President Biden for not yet going there himself.
That was the biggest slap in the face. That tells you right now he doesn't care about us.
Trump telling voters the administration failed to act or care quickly enough. And he's doing so on safe turf in a county that was competitive as recently as 10 years ago, but supported him with more than 71% of the vote in 2020. For Trump, it is a move to rectify what for now are rough numbers nationally.
Look, my message to President Trump is we thank you for your service, great, but we're moving on.
Generally, more Republican voters want someone other than Trump on the ticket in 2024, just as the majority of Democratic voters also desire an option other than Biden, despite previous vows to serve 2 terms.
And if that means a rematch against Donald Trump?
You're trying to tempt me now.
Meanwhile, Republicans are making the rounds. Already declared Nikki Haley was in early state Iowa this week with her mantra of out with the old and in with the new.
But it's going to take every single one of you to be a part of the solution.
And possibles, Senator Tim Scott in South Carolina.
My story is the American story.
And Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis talking policing in New York.
They're putting woke ideology ahead of your safety.
So while Trump and Biden may feel they're destined for a rematch, the question is that what Americans want? And can they convince a majority who right now say no? On Capitol Hill, I'm Scott Thuman.
Another public safety meeting canceled as Baltimore is in the middle of another violent week, pressing leaders on why the meetings aren't being held. An historic winter storm moving across the nation, but weather here could hit record highs. A look ahead to what we can expect this week. An emergency bill being considered creating a task force to help Maryland 529 families. Parents urging lawmakers to act as they stand to lose tens of thousands in their kids' college savings.
Lawmakers are holding an important hearing today to address issues with the state's embattled college trust.
Problems began last spring when thousands of families' college funds were frozen following what Maryland 529 is calling an interest calculation error.
Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor is here right now as those families prepare to tell their stories to lawmakers, and what stories we know they have, Rebecca.
Yes, so many stories. And after a year of waiting to regain full access to their accounts, parents, they're saying enough is enough. They want their money and they want lawmakers to step up and help. Senate Bill 475 would establish a work group to assist them in seeking those solutions and answers that they're so desperate for right now. The work group will be tasked with identifying the root cause of the problem, as well as developing policies and procedures to prevent something like this from happening again. At a hearing held last month, Maryland 529 executives claimed they had fixed the interest calculation error and were simply working to recalculate accounts. However, parents claim under those new calculations, many of them have lost tens of thousands of dollars on their investments. They've also had to take out loans and rack up debt while they wait for the state agency to finish sorting out its alleged math mistake. Parents ultimately arguing it's a mistake the state made. They should be the ones to pay for it. Now, we're still waiting for today's hearing to start, but we do know that at least 30 parents are scheduled to share their stories. We'll keep you posted on what they have to say, and if the Education, Energy, and Environment Committee decides to pass or deny Senate Bill 475. In studio, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. At least a half dozen people have been shot in Baltimore this week. 2 of those victims were killed. To date in 2023, there have been at least 37 homicides and 75 non-fatal shootings in the city. Well, despite the continued violence, the city's Public Safety Committee again canceled today's meeting. Alexa Ashwell questioned the chair and members of the committee as to why this is happening.
There have been at least 7 scheduled public safety hearings so far this year. More than half of those, including today's, have been canceled. We wanted to know why. While homicides and shootings are down across the city compared to this time last year, the city is still facing a crime crisis, like the 15-year-old Mervo High School student who was shot outside of an after-school program, or the mother who was shot and killed as she and her children waited for their takeout order in Upton last month. We also can't forget the 5 high school students who were shot in a shopping plaza parking lot. One of those kids killed. Here, a look at the 2023 calendar showing 4 out of the 7 hearings canceled. In addition, 1 week a meeting wasn't even scheduled. I reached out to each member of the Public Safety Committee asking for an explanation. Specifically, why are these meetings not being prioritized in a city that's been faced with more than 300 homicides for the past 8 years? And as a member of the Public Safety Committee, do you find this concerning? What have you done to address this? 2 councilmen referred me to Councilman Mark Conway, who chairs the committee and controls scheduling. Conway sent me this statement that reads, "Committee hearings are canceled for a variety of reasons, including scheduling conflicts and requests by the sponsor of a bill being heard to reschedule. The committee has already had thoughtful hearings this year on topics like local control of BPD, juvenile justice, EMS services, and human trafficking. I look forward to our upcoming hearings on bills and topics brought forth by my colleagues and I." But historically, these public safety hearings haven't just been about legislation, rather a time for the Baltimore Police Department to share the latest crime statistics, any trends that they're seeing, and what's being done to address crime. I pointed this out to the chairman, but have not yet heard back. Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
And Scott says, "How dare you ask me those questions?" That is completely irresponsible. It doesn't deal substantively with the issues, and it leaves Baltimore in the same position it was before the questions were asked.
Developing right now, frustrations are growing in Baltimore as some analysts and community members tell Fox 45 News they aren't satisfied with Mayor Brandon Scott's response to questions on the crime crisis and that controversial conduit deal with BGE. Longtime Baltimore resident Pastor P.M. Smith spoke with our morning team today about the concerns he has with accountability in local government.
He has no answer that can satisfy any question in the arena of public safety, in the arena of economics, in the arena of education.
Smith also voiced frustration with a lack of improvement in city schools and the mayor's claims that no rules were broken in the approval of his conduit plan with BGE. That's despite the city council president and comptroller saying the mayor is abusing his power. Two Baltimore County brothers have been convicted of murder. In July of 2021, Darris Washington was found shot to death inside of a car outside an Owings Mills apartment complex. Investigators say 19-year-old Malik Gregory and 21-year-old Kyrie Gregory met with Washington to buy marijuana. During the meeting, police say there was a struggle that ended in murder. The brothers could face life in prison for the killing.
Multiple carjackings across the state. In Prince George's County, two juveniles are now charged with stealing a vehicle at gunpoint. This is a picture of the ghost gun found with the suspects when they were arrested. And police say just after 4:30 yesterday, officers saw a vehicle that had been reported as stolen and took the driver into custody after a short chase. Investigators say the car had been stolen a week earlier. Two 17-year-olds are facing multiple charges.
Last night in Anne Arundel County, a car was stolen. Police say before 9 o'clock, a victim was approached by a male in the late teens or early 20s wearing all black and a face mask. The suspect allegedly threatened the driver with a rifle and stole the car. The car was a dark blue Toyota Camry. Two other suspects were seen in a silver Hyundai. Anyone with information should contact Anne Arundel County Police.
With car thefts up, Baltimore County Police are launching a public safety campaign for Hyundai and Kia owners. There has been a nationwide increase in the number of Kia and Hyundais targeted by thieves due to a failure in their anti-theft software. The county initiative includes a steering wheel lock giveaway and assistance for owners installing an update to improve the vehicle's threat protection.
Well, on the left side of your screen, snow is hitting millions across the country this week. That storm is expected to stretch from coast to coast, bringing heavy snow, freezing rain, and even severe thunderstorms. The Dakotas, Nebraska, Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin all see snow and ice today. And locally, we had to deal with some sleet ourselves and a little bit of rain this morning, but things are about to take a major turn. We could see record-breaking heat tomorrow. Here's Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers.
Yeah, a little brief rain, sleet mix this morning with temperatures close to 40, but you saw there it was just really wet. Nothing like what they're seeing in the Midwest or the Intermountain West, where they're going to be seeing feet of snow even as close as Detroit. A big ice storm going on. Around here, though, we are on the warm side of the system. It may not really feel like it today because a little bit cooler air has nosed in from the north and east, but this is not the Arctic stuff involved with the big winter weather with this. Toyota East Shore Harbor Skycam right now, we do have some clouds, 48 at BWI. No more 60s like yesterday, at least not today. 46 at Aberdeen, 50 at Annapolis, and Easton now at 54, some 40s at Westminster. But take a look overnight. Temperatures go back up. We're in the 40s by 8, 10, midnight, and then we're in the 50s by about 4 a.m. and potentially we could be in the 60s as you're wrapping up the AM commute. Could even touch near 80 tomorrow. That would be a new record high, or at least tie a record high tomorrow afternoon. And look at that temperature trend going back down, though, by Friday into Saturday. And there is a chance of precipitation there on Saturday, 20% chance. I'm going to let you know coming up in my Weather Authority forecast if it's going to be rain or maybe something else a little more wintry. That's coming up in just a couple of minutes.
Thank you, Jonathan. Put the power of the Weather Authority Storm Center in your hands. Download the free WBFF Weather Authority app for your smartphone and use our Doppler radar to follow storms to your street. Go to your app store and search WBFF to get started.
Look around. I'm in public housing. I can't afford no $1,000 tutor from Sylvan. But that's what he needs, a tutor.
It has been 2 weeks since Nichelle Watkins shared her story with Project Baltimore, and in that time, her life has changed. Watkins has a fourth grader who attends Johnson Square Elementary, which a Project Baltimore investigation found is one of 23 city schools where 0 students who took the state math test scored proficient. Watkins came forward pleading for help, saying her son is far behind in education. Her emotional story triggered an outpouring of support.
I feel like I shouldn't have had to come to the news to get the help that I know my child needed. And for me to have to push this hard for the help is crazy to me.
Well, tonight at 10, how the community is rallying around this Baltimore mom and the offer she has received from a local private school. And making headlines now, Maryland's congressional delegation announcing a $2 million federal grant to remove West Baltimore's so-called highway to nowhere. The road was built more than 50 years ago. The project destroyed homes and displaced more than 1,000 residents. Well, lawmakers call the federal grants a first step towards addressing this historical injustice.
An important day for many Christians. Today is Ash Wednesday, marking the beginning of Lent, a season of reflection, fasting, and prayer. Some of the faithful observing the holy day at the Baltimore Basilica in Mount Vernon.
Should we be generous to those in need all year long? Should we continually moderate our intake of food and drink? And isn't prayer supposed to be a constant part of our lives? The answer is, of course, yes. And Lent is the time to ask if we are actually doing those things and to learn anew what they really mean.
The ashes are made from blessed palm branches from the previous year's Palm Sunday Mass. A public safety walk about to start in Baltimore County will have the latest on the community's response to a recent string of violence in the Towson area.
The House Judiciary Committee demanding the Department of Justice hand over documents related to their investigations into parents who attended those heated school board meetings during the pandemic. I'm Kayla Gaskins in Washington.